Just turn your camera off and on again.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us. Because the rejoicing of learning Torah is actually, especially the secrets of Torah, especially that's called the wine of Torah. So the wine of Torah is actually the way that we are going to celebrate Adar in the most ultimate and the greatest way. So let's begin. So let us begin, and I'm going to pull up the text. Sorry about that. Here we go. We have the text over here. Okay. Does everybody see the text? Okay. Okay. Excellent. So in front of you have the text, the Zohar Parshar Terumah. So I'm sorry. Okay. So everybody has the text in front of them. So before we look into the text, I wanted to give a synopsis before we look at the synopsis on the text itself. So we're discussing the parsha called Terumah, which means the parsha of giving, the parsha of donations to the creation of the temple, more specifically the tabernacle. That was the locomotive temple that was able to be transported in the desert before it reached its final destination in Jerusalem. So in order to create the tabernacle, it says that the Jewish people were asked to give, some say 13, some say 15 items to the temple. And these 15 items were all taken by the people themselves as a donation, as a gift which came from their hearts, basically to create the temple and to make a dwelling place for God. And the Midrash tells us a very, very beautiful thing, a very beautiful concept, that the temple was there to essentially recreate the process or the feeling of the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, where the Jewish people on Mount Sinai stood there, and what they thought was a one-time deal, where they got the ultimate surround sound, the ultimate technology, godly technology, where they saw the sounds and they heard the sights, and they heard God speak to them, and it was a concrete feeling of being close to the divine. They were touching the sky, and they were down below. They were feeling the ground, how the ground permeated godliness. And it seemed like it was a one-time event. It was a one-time deal. But the Midrash tells us that is specifically why the Jewish people were asked to create a temple. And the creating of the temple, the tabernacle, was in order to recreate that process or that experience of the Jews on Mount Sinai every single time. So every single time that the Jewish people stepped into the tabernacle, they were once again drifted and taken back to that place of Mount Sinai, of being there. And they felt that divine kiss, that divine love for them every single time that they walked into the tabernacle. So before the tabernacle could be built, the scripture, the Torah tells us that the Jewish people were meant to donate and to give of themselves in order to allow godliness to reside within them. So it was a process of giving to the divine in order for the divine to properly rest within them. And this is really the intro that I wanted to open up with before we look at this piece of the Zohar. So let's have a look. Zohar Parshar Terumah synopsis. The section, title, passage summarizes one single great truth, which Rabbi Shimon explains. Which Rabbi Shimon explains to us that for one to aspire toward divine union, he must strive with all of his heart and soul, and with self-purification, and pay the necessary price. In other words, in order for God to reside within the temple, there had to be a sense of striving from the Jewish people themselves. God wasn't going to just, drop this amazing amount of godliness into this world without the Jewish people doing their part. So let's continue. We also hear that he is prompted to do this by the heart of God in himself, that he may increase his worthiness by turning a wicked person from the path of evil. And we're going to see what that means. Essentially, that the idea of giving is the idea of transformation. That when a person gives of himself, or he gives a something of himself that belongs to him, he essentially transforms the physical matter, or the time that he has, or the emotion, or whatever it is that he's giving. It is transformed from being in the potential to the actual, which is the idea of the transformation of things that are in the realm of the wicked to the realm of the righteous, which we're going to talk about soon. In doing so, he causes the subjugation of the other side, causes God to be elevated in his honor, and therefore causes the world to be preserved both above and below. Such a righteous one, we're told, shall enter through the 12 gates, which we'll hopefully get to. Okay, the revelation, the relevance of the passage. Perfection comes partly through striving and steadfast self-transformation with the right intent. Yet, there is more to bettering ourselves. Please, if anybody has any questions as we begin, we will try to answer as many questions as possible. Or if there's a comment, please don't hesitate. This is what the class is about, a small class. Also the people that are here live, of course, in the Ascent. And that we could all get together and essentially understand this in a group setting, even virtually, wherever we are in the world, which is part of the godliness, really, of this experience of learning online. So please don't hesitate. We can increase our merit by tutoring the wicked, helping them to be free of evil. Through our meditation upon these verses, we grasp in our hearts the source of all goodness from where we sprang. The evil tendencies of the wicked are abolished by the other side and is immobilized. We are now free to attain unity with the light of the Creator. Okay, so that's pretty deep words that we saw over there. But let's try to tackle this together. So let's take a look and open up and drink from the wine of the Zohar right over here, right now, on Rosh Chodesh Adar, the month of ultimate joy, where we are elevated to the ultimate closeness to the divine. Patach, so I'm going to read in Hebrew, and please feel free to follow along in English. Patach Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon opened up Bereisha. And he says in the beginning, Amar, it says, V'yikhu li truma, they shall take for me a gift, me'et kol ish asher yidvenu libo, from each man that has been giving, that wanted to give. Tikhu terumati, you shall take my truma, my donation. So the Zohar says, V'yikhu li, so it should say, Yikhu li, they shall take for me. In other words, the question is, why does it say V'yikhu li? It should say, they shall give to me. V'yitnu li, truma, me'ed kol ish asher yidvenu libo. So the Zohar says, and I'm actually going to switch to the English text. So, and if you ask, what's the idea? Is it not written in Isaiah? It says, come buy and eat, come buy wine and milk without money and without a price. So we see that it is free. and that it is the striving that the Holy One, blessed be He, desires. So why does it say that that God asks of the Jewish people to give these donations to the creation of the temple? And the question that Rabbi Shimon asks is, does it not say in Isaiah that come and buy and eat and it says buy wine and milk without money? So in other words, the idea of the divine, the idea of the godly light is something which is free. And so why over here is the Blessed One be He asks for this donation? He answers, Rabbi Shimon answers, anybody who desires to endeavor for Torah merits it. That means that the striving after the Holy One, blessed be He, is to know Him. For anyone who desires it will merit it without any payment whatsoever. But if the striving after the Holy One, blessed be He, is in the form of an action, it is prohibited to perform that action empty-handed and in vain, because one will not merit the drawing down of a spirit of holiness unless he pays in full. So let's talk about this passage that we just read. So it seems like on the one hand, spirituality and holiness and godliness is free. Just like you have the right to breathe, and every time we breathe, we really breathe in life. So in the same way, godliness is free for the taking. So the question is, if so, what is the idea behind the payment which God asks for in creating the temple? And the answer, which is given by the Zohar, by Rabbi Shimon, is that there's a difference between godliness, between spirituality, and between the concrete, between and that which is actually tangible. And the idea is that there's a sense of being connected to spirituality, to godliness on a external level, which again is free. But the moment that one transforms this and brings it down to the concrete, to the actual, to the lowest, most part of in this world, in other words, his very material level, down to the concrete, then there's a need for payment. And if there is no payment, then the drawing of godliness is not there in the complete, in the total. Let's do one more paragraph over there before we explain this even more. Before we go to this paragraph, I just wanted to explain it a little bit more at this point. So there's the idea of a gift or finding something, and the idea of money, of payment for something. What is the difference between receiving something as a gift or finding $100 on the floor, let's say, and the idea of earning something and of really owning it? The idea is that when there's a gift, that when you receive something or you find something, then easy come, easy go. You found it. So if you lost it afterwards, it's not a big deal. Or if you got a gift and it broke, I didn't pay for it. So at the end of the day, I came out even. That's fine. But the moment I buy something, the moment I acquire something, I already have an input into it. It's already been transformed. It has been taken from one domain to another domain, and now it's under my domain completely. And this is the point that the Zohar wants to tell us, that there's a difference between a gift of spirituality, which is free, which God gives to us every single second of the day, and then the idea of acquiring spirituality, acquiring godliness, acquiring holiness within the person, that the person owns it, that the person now has it within himself as something which is his, that he is a part of him. And that's exactly the difference between spirituality and holiness. Spirituality is something which is above you. Holiness is something which is worked upon, which a person has to pay a price for. And the price over here is a actual physical price that is paid, which is the idea of the Terumah, of the giving of the Terumah to the tabernacle. So now let's look at the second paragraph over here. In the book of sorcery, yes, it says, right, the book of sorcery of Ashmedai, which is actually the King Solomon knew him quite well, because King Solomon knew the language of the Shin Dalids, we call them, of basically of the demons. And there's supposedly a book of the book of sorcery of the demons. And King Solomon writes over there, it is written that whoever wants to endeavor to remove from himself the impure spirit, this is what the king of the demons himself says. So it's pretty reliable source. King Solomon tells us that to remove from himself the impure spirit and to subdue the other spirit of the other side, one must buy in full payment the action in which he wishes to endeavor. And he should give whatever is requested of him, whether a lot or a little. So there's a concept of when for example, a mitzvah, when a person has a mitzvah to fulfill, not to bargain. And I know it's sometimes quite hard for some people, to not to bargain, especially if you're in the area of the Middle East. But if you have a mitzvah, then the idea is to pay it in full. To pay just to, whatever the person asks you for, then that means that I need to give that amount, and that amount has the power to cleanse me of any other spirit. And the spirit of impurity is always ready, freely and for nothing, and is saleable without payment, because he compels people upon whom he dwells and entices them to dwell within him. He tempts them to make their habitation with him in many ways. Okay, so let's pause over here and let's take some questions or comments, please, if anybody wants to share. Let's see. Zalman, do you want to unmute if there's any questions?
I put in a setting that people can unmute their microphone themselves. That's what it says that it could do.
Okay. Okay, so there's no, I guess, no questions or comments. So everybody's speechless. Okay, speechless as I am. So let's continue. Okay. The next part, Zalman, if you could mute yourself, that'd be great. Okay, the spirit of holiness is not this way, but only with full payment and great endeavor, and by purifying himself and purifying his habitation with the desire of his heart and soul. And even then, fortunate is he who merits that he will place its habitation within him. And with all this, he must go in the straight path, neither turning right nor left. If he does not, he separates himself immediately and distances himself from him. And he will not again be able to merit it as he did originally. Okay, so now we're going back to the Parsha of Terumah. So basically, in regards to this, the Zohar was telling us, in regards to this is the concept of bringing these gifts towards the temple. The idea of the 15 gifts which were given, which the Torah lists, the idea of gold, silver, copper, silk, etc. 15 gifts is the idea of uplifting the matter, uplifting physicality. The idea of 15 is very important. What's the idea of 15? The idea of 15 says that there were 15 steps in the temple, going from the place of called mundane to the place of holy. And the idea of 15 is elevation of the mundane, which is also God's name. The beginning of God's name. The beginning of God's name is Yud K, and then it says Vav K, and then it is the other half of the name. But the first part of the name is Yud K, which is the uplifting to the realm of spirit. So let's take a look at this next paragraph. So in reference to this, it is written that they bring me an offering of every man, meaning one called man who has overcome his inclination. For whoever overcomes his inclination is called man. What is the inclination which we're talking about over here? So we're talking about the inclination of the desire not to give, of to be selfish. So it says, whoever's heart prompts him to give. He questions, what does whose heart prompts him to give mean? He answers, rather that the Holy One, blessed be He, takes pleasure in him, as it is written, of you my heart has said, the strength of my heart, etc., as it says in Tehillim and Psalms, of a merry heart, right? Of a joyous heart, which it says in Mishlei, King Solomon writes, and his heart was merry, as it says in Ruth, right? It says that Boaz, his heart was merry. They all refer to the Holy One, blessed be He, meaning the heart of the Holy One, blessed be He, that is His goodwill. That's the idea of the giving. Here also, whose heart prompts him is the heart of the Holy One, blessed be He. From him shall you take my offering, because there is where the Holy One, blessed be He, is found, for it dwells in him and in no other place. So it says that is exactly what the tabernacle is. That the verse says that they shall make for me a tabernacle and I will dwell within them. And the classic question is, why does it say I will dwell within them and not I will dwell within it? So the idea is I will dwell within them, that the idea of the tabernacle is not just a physical edifice, but it's a spiritual edifice that is within each and every person. That the idea of the tabernacle is not just a place, a physical place, but it is also a place which is also physical, but it is within the heart of man. And within the heart of man is the heart of God. That's the idea of the idea is of when we give and we create this bestowing. So then there is a giving, and this is what Rabbi Shimon tells us over here, that the heart of the Holy One, blessed be He, that is his goodwill. That our goodwill is really the goodwill of godliness. And where do you really see that? What's the difference between adults and kids and children? The difference is that quite often as adults, we feel like we want to clench our hands, and not give, and well, this belongs to me, and I did this, etc., etc. The difference is that a child naturally gives, at least at a certain age. I mean, at a certain, and at another age, a child actually holds himself back or herself back quite, and they have to learn to give again. But at that, those few years, though, the child is really giving. Why is that? Because the heart is really the way it should be. And that's what we're talking about over here. We're talking about reaching that place of goodness, of giving, where there is by doing that there is a synthesis. There's a unity within from within the divine into the actual the presence, the physical presence of the person and of the world. So how do we know that the Holy One, blessed be He, wants him and places his dwelling in him? It is written, when we see the desire of a person is to endeavor to pursue the Holy One, blessed be He with his heart and soul and desire, we are certain then that the Shekhinah dwells there. In other words, if our giving is a giving that is done in a pure way, in a way of wanting to give, then we know that really that's the right way to do it. That we're not forced to give, we don't have to give, but we want to give. And that's what the Torah says, that you shall take from each man that his heart will prompt him to give, because the idea of prompting of the heart is part of this mitzvah of giving. And actually, it's interesting because the Maimonides, the Rambam, writes that there's 8 levels of giving, charity, and of course there's the most basic level is to just give and to just drop it off. And we reach the highest level of giving. It's a level of giving that you really want to help the person, and the Rambam says that you try to help them actually get a job, because by doing that you actually help him on the best in the best level. So that's the idea of not just caring for my feeling good of the part of the giving, but I really am prompted to do the ultimate level of giving. Then, so it says, then we shall pay in full to befriend him and to learn from him. About this, the ancients say, and acquire for yourself a friend. It says, actually says this in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of our Fathers. It says you should try to acquire a friend. What's the idea of acquiring a friend? Why can't you just be buddies with him and go to go fishing together, go to the game together, go to a movie together or whatnot? What's the idea of acquiring a friend? What's the idea of really of a friend? So the idea of a friend is the idea of connection. In Hebrew, chaver means friend. And the idea is that in order to really connect to someone else, you need to acquire him. And if that means you need to really go out of yourself to connect to that person, so then that's what needs to be done. Because you're looking for a true connection. And if you're looking for a true connection, a true friendship, then there's a need for you to go beyond yourself in your comfort zone and what the friend has to do for me. So here the interpretation of this is that you must buy him in full price in order to merit the Shekhinah that dwells in him. And that very practically means that in order to acquire a friend, and the ultimate friend, and actually some of the commentaries say that acquire a friend, that refers to God. That in order to do that, you need to be ready to actually pay for that. So, as we said before, if there's a mitzvah that that requires money for you to pay for, you have to spend that. I'm reminded of a story that of a very wealthy individual that had like 100-room mansion, and at the end, he asked the rabbi to come in and fix the mezuzah on his front door or a couple of other doors. So the rabbi said, you need to put mezuzahs on all the doors. So the man said, yeah, but I don't know if I could afford all that. I have so many doors. And that's of course, ridiculous. If you bought, the mansion, then the mitzvos are something which you certainly should afford, and it should be on the top of your priority. So it's the same with, and actually they say those people who acquire good mezuzahs, big mezuzahs, actually it's a segula, it has a special merit to owning a large home, because you're starting with the end in mind. You're starting with the mitzvah in mind, and it's like that with all the mitzvahs. So if, the idea is to spend money on them, and to spend money on making that connection with God, and whatever that means, whatever that takes. So if you need to travel to a certain place to study, if you need to enroll in learning the alphabet, for example. So I know somebody that spent tens of thousands of dollars in order to learn how to read Hebrew. So what does that mean? All that money is going to to a good place. That it's going for him to making that connection with the divine. And it's like that, with learning Torah, and it's like that with if there's in another town there's a opportunity for you to learn, and you need to get in your car and travel all that way, or have a set time to learn, to study, or if there's a charge of some sort to get into the yeshiva or whatever it is. So then that's a part of it. And that's all a part of connecting to the divine. And and people also have that kind of an approach for to a synagogue. And of course sometimes that could be like, it could be overdone, and it's not necessarily connection to to godliness. It's a connection to the sisterhood and all that. But the idea is you're when you make that donation to that synagogue, where so you are connecting, and you're becoming one with that entire, whatever that synagogue does. So that's what we are. That's what we're seeing over here from this week's portion. The idea of dwelling within him, the idea of dwelling, can only be done fully if you are going to spend, pay that price in order to actually have the divine dwell within you. And of course, it could mean money, but it could also mean time, and it could also mean the actual exertion that it takes you in order for you to go to the distances to care about having that divine dwell within you. In the same way, the righteous one, so we'll continue, one must pursue the wicked person and purchase him for a full price, in order to remove from him the filth, subdue the other side, and build him, for it is considered as though he created him. This is a praise which the glory of the Holy One, blessed be He, will be elevated more than with any other praise. and the elevation is quite in excess. What is the reason? What is the reason why the elevation of the divine is specifically when the wicked ones are now turned and transformed to godliness? Because he caused the other side to be subdued and to elevate the honor of the Holy One, blessed be he, as it is written about Aaron, the high priest, and turned away many away from iniquity. And also my covenant was with him. It says specifically about Aaron, the high priest, the Cohen. It says that he turned many away from negativity, and specifically it says about him that my covenant, that my connection with Aaron was with him. The idea of the covenant, the idea of the tabernacle was specifically with Aaron, and Aaron served in the tabernacle. And the idea is because what did Aaron do? What was his life mission? His life mission was spreading love, spreading goodness, bringing people, together, and causing people to think about what they're doing, and bringing them closer to true consciousness, to godliness. And that's why the covenant of Hashem was within him. Come and see, everyone who holds the hand of the wicked person and endeavors to help him leave the path of evil is elevated in 3 elevations, to which another person cannot rise. He causes a subjugation of the other side. He causes the Holy One, blessed be he, to be elevated in his honor, and he causes the world to be preserved both above and below. About this, it is written, my covenant was with him for life and peace, it says about Aaron. And he merits to see the children of his children, and gains merit in this world and in the world to come. All the accusers will not be able to judge him in this world and in the world to come. That is the reward of the person who brings the wicked close to Hashem, to the divine. He enters through 12 gates that are in the firmament, and there is nothing to prevent him. It is written, his seed shall be mighty upon earth. The generation of the upright shall be blessed. Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endures forever. Light rises in the darkness from the upright. He is gracious and full of compassion and just, as King David writes in Tehillim, in Psalms. So the outcome of what we just learned is an extremely powerful lesson. It's really a dual lesson. The idea is that we cannot achieve any true lasting sense of godliness, of a connection, unless we actually go ahead and spend the time, spend the money, exert ourselves in order to make that connection real. I'll never forget. I had a student that that would not buy the book that was required of him in the class, and when he was asked why, he said that he was waiting for a sale on the book so he could finally buy the book. And what happened, of course, is that he lost out on many words that he could have written in the book, and of course a lot of knowledge, because he was not willing to spend the extra few dollars to buy the book in time. So we're told that we need to do what it takes in order to make that connection real. Otherwise, it's not a real connection. It's fluff. It's spirituality. That's A. B, the other side, the other part of what the Zohar was telling us is the idea of acquiring is also the acquiring of the wicked, and it's acquiring of those who are far away from godliness. And let's take that on a very basic level. It's when we see people that are not as fortunate as we may be, in whatever ways, it could be in so many different ways. Maybe it could be in terms of money, it can be in terms of knowledge, it could be in terms of consciousness, in terms of stability, whatever it may be. The idea is that we always have the ability to impart and to help others. And when we do that, when we do take the time to impart upon others, then that causes such a great joy up above. It's the tabernacle. It's the idea of drawing down godliness in this world, because that's what the world was created for righteousness, for goodness to really persevere and to exist in this world. So there's a story about Rabbi Zusha of Anipoli, who was one of the great Hasidic masters, that he was once walking and he saw a horse and a wagon seeped in the mud, and it fell inside of the mud, and the wagon driver was outside and was trying to push the horse out, the wagon out, and he was unsuccessful. So he saw Rabbi Zusha walking by, and he said to him, Rabbi Yid, sir, can you help me, take out my wagon from the mud? And Rabbi Zusha said, I can't right now. I'm running to the synagogue. I'm running somewhere to do something. And the man said to him, it's not that you can't, it's that you don't want to. And this really hit a chord. It really hit a chord by Rabbi Zusha. And he said it's true. That when we say that, we can't, it's not that we can't. It's just really that we don't want to. Because if we really wanted to do it, then we would do it. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. If we would really get that wagon or the wagon drive or the horse out of the mud, that's irrelevant. But the idea is our heart really propelling us? Is our heart really saying yes? Yes, we can. Sorry to use Obama's line over there, but yet. But do we say yes, we can do this? Yes, we do want to do this. So if we want to do this, then yes, we can. And then we can really be put our helping hand, and hopefully the outcome will be good. But if the outcome is not really our process, it's not really the end intention. The intention is God wants to see the giving. And the giving, the heart, is what's important over here. The dvenu libo, the giving of the heart. So I think the lesson from here is extremely practical. That we could really extract from here the idea of being involved in the connection that we want to have with God, the connection that we want to have, and if that entails doing something concrete for it, then that's what we need to do, because concretely it will better our connection with God and make that connection much more real. So that's A again, and the idea of B, the idea of being mindful to what we see, and our ability to truly impart on others is bringing the divine presence down in this physical world. Making for God a dwelling place down in this physical world, which is ultimately the intention of the creation of the world. Being mindful of others. So I'd just like to end off, and we'll take questions, please, comments. But before we end off, I just wanted to share a line from the Baal Shem Tov. The Holy Baal Shem Tov says, who actually started the Hasidic dynasty, named Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov, his merit should be upon us. He said that in the name of Rabbi Mordechai HaTzadik, which actually is appropriate to the month that we're in, Mordechai, the idea of Adar, he says that in the name that he was one of the hidden tzaddikim, one of the 36 righteous individuals in the world at that time. And he said that a person comes down to this world and lives, for 70 years or 80 years, whatever, all to do one favor for a person, either a physical favor or certainly a spiritual favor. So we never know, that favor that spiritual favor, that physical favor that we do for our friends is giving a tremendous delight for Hashem, for Hashem's dwelling in this world. So may it be that with each and every step that all of us take, and collectively, all the good deeds, but even one good deed could actually change and tilt the scales and really bring the world to a place of complete goodness, with the coming of Mashiach, that the entire world, and in each step and each good thing that we do, we bring the world to that reality. And we never know, that next good deed could be the one that tilts the scales. So may we tilt the scales and bring Mashiach now. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. If there's any questions or comments, we could unmute. I'm sorry? I'm not sure if I heard that. Zalman?
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm not sure how to unmute, so...
I'll do it for you. Okay, everybody's unmuted now.
Okay.
Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom. That's a great comment. Kodesh Tov, Shabbat Shalom. There's no better comments than that. May we all have a blessed, we be blessed with a tremendous month of goodness, of really be regenerated, and may the world see the ultimate newness.
Amen.
In this world, with the building of the Beit HaMikdash.
Amen.
I just wanted to know, how can you get the recording to listen again?
Yeah, Zalman is going to have that out.
Website? I have to go to the website.
No, we're going to have that out before this.
Yeah, last week's didn't come out. There was a problem with last week's. Otherwise, it's on the website, and I'll send out a link inviting people in general where to find it.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Great. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Vivian. Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom, Yosef. Shabbat Shalom, Angelo, and Steve, Hyman, and Vivian. Really should be a wonderful Shabbat. And look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Right, and I'll be talking to you soon, Rabbi, I'm sure.
Yes, and experience Zohar. And regards from Tzfat, from the holy city of Tzfat, facing Meron. And wish everybody a blessed Shabbat and an amazing month.
Amen. Amen.
Chodesh Tov.
Kodesh Tov.
Kodesh Tov. Kodesh Tov.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Bye.
Okay. Vivian, that was you who asked about the recording?
Yeah, me, exactly. Because I went to the website last week, and I didn't see even the documents for the last one, I guess. Yeah, for the last one, I wanted to have all the pictures. There is a picture, very good one for healing. I'm talking about just to relate things. You put a picture of a human being with a different sphirot and the name of God. And that is so good because, I just wanted to have the whole thing.
So if you go on the website, so there's live classes and then there's online courses. So there's some text-based courses.
I went there.
And there should be some of the audio visuals that were used. They should be available there as well. You didn't see it?
I will try. I will try again.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see. Okay,
In each class, there should be a recording and then the audio visuals. And then there just wasn't one for last week because the recording didn't happen. But I could put up those audio visuals, though, for sure. I could put them up.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because this one is so good, so I don't want to miss it again. Okay,
Yeah, there were
thank
some
you.
good ones. There were some good ones. I have them all. So if you still have a problem with it, let me know by email. I'm happy to send it to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
All the best.
Thank
Good
you.
Shabbos.